Hey all, it's been a while since I've made my videos, but I hope you are doing all better. I was kind of swamped with all the applications and USCs, but as promised, let me share with you the important assessments I used for my Step 2 CK for 2021. I share the links down below, and of course, disclaimer, this is just what I used, but it may vary from person to person. So here is my timeline for it. I did my NBME 6 for the first week of December. I started doing my first pass around late September, October, and this was my baseline. I did my exam in March. After about 3 weeks, I did an NBME 7. In NBME 6, since that was my baseline, I got a really low score. I did still review, and it didn't really shake me because I know I was still in the first part of reviewing. And so I did my NBME 8 for second week of January, and I did a really good jump for it. I was pretty confident about the CK already. And so I did my UWSA 1, or the UWorld Self-Assessment 1, around end week of January, the last week of January, and I did a pretty good score. And then I did the UWorld Self-Assessment 2, which I did at the second week of February. I intended to do my exam during this time around last week of February. I got a score way below my target score, which is, my target score was 250s. And so I was pretty rattled, and it's because it was 30 points below. I got like low 220s. So what I did was I moved my exam around 30 weeks to hammer more on my weaknesses. During this time as well, I was doing CMS Forms 5 and 6. I'll be telling you more about that. I was doing it for surgery, IM, peds, and OB. And then I also did old 120 and new 120 a week. Like, these are the free exams and free assessments from USMLE, and I did those a week before my exam. Let us go deeper to each self-assessment. I will be doing it by level of priority. This is based on me. The level of priority is how I prioritize them. It can be different from your level of priority. I will indicate the pricing, and I will be giving a score prediction, if it's a good score prediction or not, and probably how close are the questions to the real exam. So first, let's do the UWorld self-assessments 1 and 2. Level of priority highest. This is a pretty good one, and pricing for this is $70 for both if you buy this separately from the QBank, but usually this is included in the UWorld QBank subscription. And score prediction for this is high for others, but both underpredicted my score. It's a hit for most people, but just not for me. UWorld, as I told you about it, UWorld Self-Assessment 2 underpredicted me by almost 30 points. But take note that I moved my exam 3 weeks because of this. And how close are the questions to the real deal? I think the UWorld Self-Assessment mirrors the real deal, especially the UWorld Self-Assessment 2. It mirrors it in the way that it will ask you like 3-step questions, which is usual in the real exam. Although I found this a lot longer, the questions are a lot longer than the real exam. But the level of hardness for me is similar for UWorld's self-assessments. For the real exam, I found my blocks consisting of a mix of short, like 1 to 2 sentences, and long questions. Long questions like a full page question. And I felt like UWorld self-assessment just have really long questions than the real exam. And this has 3 blocks, each with 40 questions. I treated this as a real exam. So what I did was, during the first part of the day, I did my UWorld first 3 blocks, and then I added 1 block from AMBUS because I haven't used AMBUS yet. So I did a random block from AMBUS. And then I did 4 more blocks from AMBUS during the end of the day. Those I haven't seen yet. I just mirrored this and I did this just to prepare me for the duration of the day and just to give me a heads up how I would be feeling at the end of the day. Of course, it's a long day, so it's always tiring, but I want to give myself some way on how it would be. This is a really good gauge of where you are during dedicated or a few weeks before the exam. I would recommend to do the UWorld self-assessment last for the assessments near the real exam date, just because this kind of mirror the real exam. Not exactly if you say 100% mirrors it, no, but it is closer. It is very important to read and study the explanations in the assessments as well. They have a pretty good distribution of concepts and very good explanations for each concepts. I remember I had similar concepts from my exam that is very similar to the UWorld self-assessment. I wasn't able to review that in the UWorld blocks, but I saw it in the UWorld self-assessment. I got it wrong, and then I reviewed about it, and then I saw that similar case in my real exam. So it's very beneficial to be doing a review of explanations for this assessment, not just do the assessment, review the explanations as well. For the NBME 6, 7, and 8, and the level of priority for this I would say is high. Pricing is $60 each, and NBME 7 was free during the pandemic, so I just paid for 6 and 8. How is the score prediction? I would say it's low, and it has a really harsh curve. NBME 6, this was the baseline, so it really underpredicted my score by 50 points, I guess. And 7 and 8 were kind of like a plus minus 15 for me. How close are the questions to the real deal? Not too close, as most of the questions are too short or too simple than the real exam. It is not as weird as the real one as well. You would know until you see the military and risk factor questions. So I think NBMEs are quite more straightforward than the UWorld self-assessments, but these are questions from the NBME itself written for this exam. So I would give this a priority still as an assessment. They have a harsh curve, as I've said, which makes it not so predictive for this course, but I would say NBME 6 would be a good for a baseline prior to starting the dedicated. 7 and 8 in the middle of the dedicated. NBMEs have a really good concept and topics tested, although I think there won't be any explanations for each exam, but it would be good to read about the concepts tested here. NBMEs are short questions. These short questions can also be found in the real deal, but it was more of a mix of long and short questions. So I think NBMEs have a 50 question block, and still I did the same thing as doing the UWorld. I did NBMEs first and then do other blocks that I haven't taken just to prepare me for the whole day, just to mirror what the day would be like for Step 2 CK for me. I did this for 7 and 8. For 6, I just did the NBME 6 for one block and then just reviewed the concepts tested. Okay, next one would be CMS Forms 3, 4, 5, and 6. For Pedia, OB, Medicine and Surgery, they also have Family Medicine, Psychiatry, I guess, Neurology. And level of priority, I would say high for 5 and 6, and mid to low for 3 and 4. Pricing for this is $20 each. I think it's just 50 questions for each CMS form, and score prediction is not applicable. This is just a self-assessment for taking the shelf exams, and I think the score prediction would give you not a 3-digit score, it will give you a percentage. I did this 4 weeks before my exam, and I was getting high 70s to high 80s kind of range, but I didn't really go with a score prediction, and I wouldn't base where I am right now with a score. How close are the questions to the real deal? Not too close, as the questions here are easier than the real exam, and it involves really straightforward questions like diagnosis, So CMS forms are really helpful to be more familiar with the topics usually tested in the exam, as this is made by NBME testers. Although this was an assessment for shelf exam, it is also really helpful for CK. They provide extensive explanations as well, but I would not take this as a score predictor. This is more for concept familiarization. I have read that people will sometimes get the same question in the real exam from CMS. I haven't experienced that, but I was quite expecting it, but unfortunately I didn't. But I definitely had topics discussed on these forms that are tested in my exam. I would say go with the latest if you are running out of time. So 5 and 6 CMS forms. 3 and 4 do not have explanations and are a bit outdated, especially in OB. I did 3 and 4 with OB, and I was really confused with the NST part of it because it was kind of outdated already. So I would not really put this as my priority. I hammered on my weaknesses, as I have said, which was OB and PED. So this was really helpful, especially from 5 and 6. So you might want to try this. Next would be Old Free 120. So this is a 120 questions from USMLE. Level of priority mid. Score prediction is low. And how close are the questions to the real deal? This is easier and a lot easier than the real exam. The old one. It involves some buzzwords which are not really in the real one, and NBME tend to shy away from giving out buzzwords already. And also straightforward diagnosis questions. The real deal has a lot of 2 to 3 step questions for me, so this was kind of easier. This is in the USMLE website, and it was just in a PDF. So I did a written exam for this. There aren't any explanations as well, so you will be the one finding the explanations. I will still recommend this for practice, but if you had to choose between the old and the new free 120, choose the new one, which I will be explaining for the next topic. So new free 120, level of priority, highest. Score prediction, it's low. It tends to underpredict for a lot of people, and it is really hard to get a good prediction for this. This is just 120 questions. It will give you a percentage score as well, not a 3-digit score if you are looking for one. So how close are the questions to the real deal? Closest one, I would say. This is the closest form I've got, and I think the blocks I got, this is the closest one I had in the real exam. I think it mirrors the real exam, and the questions are very much just like how it was written in the new 120. I did this a week before my exam, and I found it hard, but it was doable, which is like the real deal. It was really hard, it was really tiring, but it was doable. I recommend to do this online, and the interface is a lot just like the real exam, and just like what you're doing in your world, and take it as if you are doing the real one. The manner by which the questions are asked are very similar to the real exam, where there are military risk factors questions. The weird NBME questions are quite there. I would recommend this and do not skip this. So, Lecturio-free self-assessment, level of priority low. This was given by Lecturio for free few weeks before my exam, so I just grabbed it since it's free. However, the explanations for answers were not given, as I had to subscribe first in order to get the explanation. I got 240s for this assessment 2 weeks before my exam, but I think there are questions here that are too easy, but there are also questions that are too tricky as well. It's a hit or miss question for me. I did not really care much about the score I got from this, as this is not really in the standard list of self-assessments, so I couldn't really tell if it would be predictive or not. Next is AMBUS-free self-assessment. I've heard there is one for this. I was not able to do this, as this happened after I gave my exam, so I wouldn't really be able to tell you anything about it. Overall, I would say that it is best to do more questions as much as possible. So if you can take all assessments for CK, that would be great. Do practice test a lot because it helps. Again, I was speaking based on experience, so it might differ from different people, but I hope I was able to give you an overview of the assessments for Step 2 CA. So good luck everyone and happy studying.